All right, we're live.
What's up, everyone? This is Trigger Warning with Antonia, Okafor, and
Nina Prevot. Happy to see everyone tonight.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about everything 2A, but mostly gun laws. Sometimes other things that's in the cultural news. So, but today we have a very special guest. We're pretty biased because we're women, and we think of this woman as pretty awesome because of what she does, not only because she's a woman, but especially more so what she does in Texas and what for our country when it comes to gun rights. That is Texas Director of Gun Owners of America, Rachel Malone. Thanks for having me to be here. Yeah. Did you just leave? I know we've been trying to get with you for a while now because of the session.
Yeah, because I'm at the Capitol until like 2 a.m. some nights. No, so today actually was perfect. I didn't have any bills up for hearings today, so I just went in and met with legislators, had meetings, but I actually came home at a decent hour because tomorrow I have to be there for hearings starting at 8 a.m., like 7:30 or 8 a.m., and I'm expecting it to be a really long day, and I probably won't get back till after midnight. So I came home a little early today.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. No, then we're really blessed and lucky that you could talk to us. Or you have
I always love hanging out and talking with you in person. So hey, podcast with you is always great.
I know. And I gotta find out. I feel bad because like I think you found out that I moved to Texas or moved to Colorado really like, hey, you wanna testify? I'm like, actually
pretty sure. I was like, let me just ask in case she's still back and forth, because I would be like really kick myself if I didn't ask and you actually were in Texas that weekend or something. So no,
so
I just
no. You're right. I am. That's a good way of thinking of things because that's so true. And we know each other like in that realm. Like that's kind of how we all operate. It's like, oh, actually, no, I was there for a week. Like,
right, exactly. I think you had some really good reasons to be in Colorado, so I can sympathize with that.
There's very many reasons to be in Colorado. That's
sure. There are, especially now when the snow is gone.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
it's tolerable. So yeah, but yeah, what are you doing right now? So fill us in on what's going on right now in the Texas Ledge. Of course, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, and our audience has been following us a little bit on what happened with Chris. You spoke with us last week, but what is the main topic right now on the House right now?
Right. So let me give you like really big picture, and then I'll talk gun rights. And I also want to talk about like what it looks like to be a gun rights lobbyist. Like what does it your life look like? Because I don't think it looks like what people think it does. It's totally different, right? Like anything. So the big picture is the ledge session started in January. It ends May 27th, and so we have 6 weeks. I guess 6 weeks from yesterday. It's going to be over. And starting end of April, definitely the beginning of May, we have certain deadlines. Like if a bill hasn't made it past that certain deadline, it's dead. Like it hasn't made it to a certain point by May 4th, by May 6th or 8th, or whatever the deadlines are, if that makes sense. So we're to the point where, things are going to be done. They're either dead or dying soon. For the gun control bills, that's obviously good news for me. I'm like, okay, just get me past another week or two. I won't have to worry about this. It'll be dead. For the gun rights bills that I really wanted to pass and they're stalling out, that's not so exciting. But that's kind of the big picture of where we are. We're in this like really rush. It's weird how the ledge works. It's like they don't really do anything can't do anything for the first months of session. They're not allowed to. And then there's this mad rush the last month or two of session to try to get stuff through. So that's the big picture. Gun rights stuff, so far, we have several bills, several good bills that have passed in one chamber. So several in the House, 1 or 2 in the Senate. They're little tiny tweaks. Honestly, it's the kind, like, I support them, okay? They make things better, but the reality is what we're doing right now in Texas is the kind of stuff that my friends in Democrat-run states are able to pull out. Like, that's the level of wins that we're getting, which really sucks considering Texas has all Republican statewide, Republican-controlled Senate and House, and we are not run by the Republicans. We are being run by the Democrats.
Oh, say it again, sister.
Yeah, ain't that true?
It's bad. Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, we have to make sure the Republicans keep control. I'm like, keep control. I mean, like, don't take control that they should rightly have. Like, what do they actually stand for? So that's kind of where we are. So, you know, we have one bill on the House floor tomorrow that's good, that I'm supporting. I have a couple of bills that are trying to make it out of committee that are bad, and I'm trying to stop those. So, you know, running around being like, okay, everybody, I'll have, you know, majority of no votes on the committee. And then all of a sudden I go to a meeting this morning that I learned like 5 minutes before it was going to happen. That's going to happen. So I run like up all the stairs. So they're like crowded into this room, and they're voting, and they bring up this bill, and they bring this committee substitute. They're like, all the gun groups are fine with this. I'm like, but I can't speak up because this is not a testimony time. I'm like, great. Like, they're going to say, oh, I was told that you were fine with it. Thankfully, one of the representatives spoke up. He's like, well, I think I need to read that first. I'm like, bless you. And so they withdrew it. But that's the kind of thing that it's just, you never know what's going to happen. Like, I never know my schedule when I go into the Capitol. I never know what it's going to be.
That actually sounds really exciting. And I'm always kind of jealous about, like, basically you get to do what I want to do, but paid to do it. And when you're doing it, you're doing a marvelous job, and it's awesome. And you're just doing so many good things for not only obviously in Texas, but just a movement in general. But, you know, I know how badass you are, how awesome you are. I would love for people to just hear a little bit more about your story, especially those who don't know your story. Can you share a little bit about your background? Were you always a pro-gun advocate? Yeah, how did you get here?
Yeah, you've got a great origin story.
Exactly. So have you heard my story?
Yes.
Okay.
I did research. Okay,
you done the background checks. Okay, understood. Okay, so I grew up in an alternate universe, and I escaped when I was in my early 20s. And I'm not even really joking. Like, that's seriously what happened. I grew up in a cult. And it was like it's not what people think of when you think of a cult. We weren't like living in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming. We were living in the middle of Austin, but it was very, very culty, and it is now being recognized more as a cult. Anyway, got out of it when I was 22, at least physically. That was 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. But
Wait, you're saying you're 32?
I just turned 33. Sorry.
I'm gonna say black don't crack, okay?
What? I've never heard that before.
You've never heard black don't crack?
I grew up in a cult, Antonia. I don't know anything.
Okay. You're forgiven.
It's my excuse for not knowing anything.
Right there. Okay, you're forgiven, but yeah, you look incredibly young. I still think you look 19, at least, if not younger, just because I know you got to go into the Texas Capitol and lobby. But okay, sorry to interrupt that story.
Yeah,
you look great.
So I feel like all of this kind of relates because I was very much of the mindset, like, I had opinions, but I didn't trust my own opinions. I didn't trust that I could have a valid opinion or could express it well or could be articulate. I didn't think of myself as a smart person. Technically, on paper, I was a high school dropout, and it wasn't necessarily that I suffered from poor self-esteem. I just didn't think of it as my role as a woman to think. And to have decisions of my own. I thought I was supposed to be submissive and never have my own opinions and never express them. So it wasn't that I thought I was dumb. It's just like I wasn't supposed to. That was not my proper role. I need to be submissive. And as a woman, I'm more prone to, rebellion. And I probably have an evil heart. And so I probably can't trust my own thoughts. Like, that's literally the mindset that I was in.
Wow.
So yeah, like that's where I was. And it took years to kind of start coming out of that. But I honestly feel like carrying a gun was huge in that. So it all started a couple of years, like it was in 2009. So I'd been out maybe sort of about a year, and my brother, who was turning 21, and I asked, talked about what he's going to do for his birthday. He's like, well, I'm going to go to CHL class. That's what it was called then. And I'm like, what is that? I have no clue what this is. And he explains it to me. I'm like, why would you go to one of those classes? And he's like, because I'm still not comprehending, right? And he's like, well, so I can carry a gun. And I flip out. I'm like, you're never gonna get in my house. Like, why would you do that? It's dangerous. It's stupid. You're gonna die. Nobody ever needs a gun. The world is safe. Guns just explode. Why would you ever want to have it on you? You're not ever allowed to have it on you or anywhere in the house. Don't do this. I just like made up all these things off the top of my head because I was genuinely afraid for his life. Like, I thought he was gonna die just because the gun was gonna explode, because that's what guns do, right? I mean, we all know this. You read it in the news. They just go off. Like when you're cleaning them, you was cleaning the gun and it went off. We know this happens, right? So he, being the very mild-mannered person that he is, very intelligent but very mild-mannered, unlike me on the mild-mannered part, he challenged me to go and prove my points. And I was like, okay, I will find those facts for you. I will find the data and I will prove that it's dangerous to carry to save your life. Like, and that was, I mean, I had a pure motives in that. I wanted to save his life. And so I went and I did a bunch of research. I remember staying up all night, at least a couple of nights, because I was gonna prove my points. I was very determined. I definitely had a major stubborn streak, despite all the, you know, submissive training. So I a few weeks later, I knocked on his door, and I was like, I have a question for you. So where do I get my license to carry? Like, it was that, because I really tried to find anything to prove my point. I just couldn't. My mind was completely changed because the facts show that I'm safer with a gun. I was still absolutely terrified of guns. I was terrified of the thought of carrying a gun. But because I checked my facts, I was actually more terrified not to carry a gun at that point.
I love it. I love it. And that's, I mean, I haven't really heard your story of how you, like, the whole gun thing really became important to you as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, I was always a pro Second Amendment person, but I never thought that I would be a person that would necessarily carry a gun myself.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah, I had the same thing. I was like, oh, they're kind of scary. They're sort of dangerous. I don't know if I can really trust myself with a gun. I'm kind of clumsy. I don't know. You know, there's all these kinds of different things. But statistically speaking, it's just not, it's actually just not a wise choice to not at least pursue carrying, especially in this day and age where we live in dangerous times. We live in times where, you know, a lot of people don't have meaning in their lives. And so people are willing to go on these kind of dangerous, almost like a killing spree sounds kind of awful, but we really do deal with these mass shooters who are not well. And people, you know, people of the leftist persuasion like to talk about rape culture, and to the extent that we as women face sexual assault, that's really the best way to prevent it is with, you know, having a little pistol in your purse to protect yourself against, you know, there's no way I'm going to defend myself against a 200-pound man. There's just no chance unless I have the great equalizer.
Chance with a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And also, when I saw the pushes for more and more gun control, I thought, well, I better get it while I still can. I know that sounds awful, but it's like I got to use the right while I have it, because there's no guarantee.
Right.
Absolutely. And that was kind of my story too. I don't know if I ever shared my story with you, Rachel, but yeah, I mean, I voted for Obama twice. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's another story. Okay. If you haven't heard of it, watch the preview video. But basically everything that came along with that was the anti-gun platform and stuff like that, right? I believed in enough is enough. Like when you were saying all those like talking points, basically, I was like, yep, it's a little loop. Like we know what's best because we heard it on TV. But that was me, girl.
It's really just living out of fear.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like that's what we're supposed to do. But then when you actually think about it, the logical aspect, you know, you're saying using the facts, right? It was the facts when I was like, oh, so you're saying concealed carry is this? Oh, and actually, statistically speaking, like you're more likely to do this, and you know, gun owners are actually more law-abiding than the general population, according to several studies. It just makes sense for you to carry. And then also, again, it's the trust factor of, you know what, I trust myself. And, you know, it's that we take that for granted as if everyone should trust themselves. I think we're in a society that makes us want to believe that we cannot trust ourselves and that the government should take care of us because we don't know.
Yes. Oh my God.
So
that's fear-based mindset, because it's like, I don't want to admit that I'm vulnerable and I live in a place where I could be attacked, or that I, you know, there's no guarantee of safety. So I just want to put on my blinders and say, yes, the government can take care of me, so I will be safe. And I think that's where that the gun control attitude comes from. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to admit that I will never be safe, so I'm just going to say, yes, the government has the ability to keep me safe, therefore government, go keep me safe. They want to like pass the buck on to somebody else. And you can't do that. You got to realize nothing is safe, but liberty is the safest option.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's so right. But yeah, I mean, your story is so incredible. It's amazing in both ways, a gun aspect and just like where you came from and your background. And I'm so glad that you are empowered and that you are out there speaking your mind. We know that you're just like 22 years of not, and then you're like, yeah, all right, I have something to say, and you have so many great things to say, and you're doing so much good work for all of us, men, female, everybody. So what was your biggest issue this year in Texas with gun rights? Would you say it was constitutional carry?
I think our biggest issue was squishy Republicans. I'm just going to put that out there.
Okay.
And leadership putting out absolutely blatantly false information about constitutional carry and intentionally blocking it and setting it up for failure and then pinning it on other people. That's not acceptable. That's absolutely not acceptable behavior for anybody, especially not for leadership.
But it sounds like you're telling us, you're referring to a certain situation.
Yeah, but so yes, I am. However, your question, like our biggest policy item, what I've been working for since I've been working in gun rights, I've been talking about constitutional carry since 2012, 2013, when I started working in gun rights. At that time, there were like 4 or 5 states that had constitutional carry, which like nobody in Texas I thought had heard of it. I did find a few people, but I thought I was like the only one who knew what the thing was. It's grown. Like we have 16 states full constitutional carry now, and several others working on it or halfway there. There's been momentum all around the U.S. So yes, I want that in Texas. Texas should be leading the way. As you probably know, Texas was the 45th state to get licensed open carry. We're not in the 31 states that have unlicensed open carry, and we're not in the 16 that have unlicensed open or concealed carry. So Texas sucks right now on gun rights. Sucking more while other states get better, like Oklahoma and Kentucky and all. So yeah, that was an issue. Right at the beginning of session, when the committees were assigned by Speaker Bonin, who was elected by all the members, we were pretty sure we were in trouble because he appointed as chair for the Homeland Security Committee, which gets most of the gun bills, he appointed Chairman Navarez, who is a known enemy of gun rights activists and constitutional carry.
Right.
And so we made a fuss about it. And the speaker made this big post on Facebook, just pushing back and saying, what are you upset about? Of course, your gun rights are going to be fine. And, don't worry about it. Chairman Navarez will be fine. Well, what happened? The bill, we were promised a hearing soon, and then it was delayed, and then it was delayed more, and then it was going to be, maybe April, and then not at all. And just promises were broken, and they kept on trying to assure us, your gun rights aren't going to be infringed. And the talking point there is our gun rights are already infringed, and you need to stop the infringement. It's
right. You're actually trying to undo what is infringed.
Exactly. And they kept on trying to sell me on, your gun rights are going to be fine. We're not going to pass any gun control bills. I'm like, well, I sure hope not, but that doesn't mean my gun rights are fine.
Right.
Yep.
Like that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, why do you think the Republicans are kind of kowtowing to the Democrats or sort of bowing down to the more progressive agenda instead of trying to be, in keeping with their campaign promises, or at least, trying to go along with their constituents? You would think that re-election would matter to them. So I'm curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, so I think, there are a lot of different reasons that go into it. I think a lot of it has to do with human psychology. And the adage that power corrupts is so true. It's so easy, and I've seen this like little bits of myself, and I realize I have to fight this too, being in the battle every day. But when you're there, you're surrounded by your colleagues, you're surrounded by, I got a little bit of power, maybe I got a seat on this kind of cool committee or a little powerful committee, or I got a vice chairmanship, which means nothing, but it feels like power. You know what I'm saying? And the governor asked me to file this bill, and whoever said my bill over here is good and he might give it a hearing. I want to just make sure I'm in line and doing whatever leadership wants, so they keep on giving me this power. But then, like, you have all the access and none of the influence, right? So, like, and I think a lot of that happened throughout session. Like a lot of the people who previously might have stood up better for our rights, they just thought, oh, you know, different speaker now. Let's, you know, let's just say everything's going to be great, and he's going to do, or just trust him, and just go ahead and give him the vote because we don't want to, you don't want to tick him off. We don't want to make him upset at us because then he won't pass any of our bills. Well, guess what? They played right into his hand because he's not passing any of the bills.
Your bills. He never
stood up. It's just so it's that human psychology of just like power corrupts and you're in this bubble. And I think one of the ways to break through is people have got to just like go in and do the face-to-face with their legislators. It's not enough to call on the phone. It's not enough to email. And I'm not saying don't do those things because they can have impact, but that is not enough right now. You've got to like see their eyeballs, and they have to see your eyeballs and like have that physical presence in the Capitol, at least talking to their staff, talking to their district director in the district, talking to them. So that's one of the reasons, and just the thirst for power. Some of them don't even really care about gun rights. Some of them do. They just don't want to stand up for it. Another huge problem is people don't understand liberty. And this is why I grew up super conservative, right? I grew up super conservative on all the issues. But conservatism, yeah, that's the word. That's a lot of syllables. Wow. Anyway, that word does not equal liberty. It's the issues and it's the principles. And I think they're like fighting for the issues and they get like carried away and they forget the underlying principles. If that helps. And that's kind of the baseline, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that. I've always said that it wasn't until I understood liberty that one, I could then trust myself and empower myself. And when you have that view, then it just changes every other thing. But you have to have that core view first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then you mentioned elections, and what I hear every day, oh, I can't do that. I'm worried about my election. I just barely won. I'm like, that's complete nonsense. So number one, you look at all the Democrats that just barely got in, or like they took over the Republican seat. If they had the same mindset, you think, oh, they're going to be worried and they don't want to do anything super radical. No, those are the ones who are filing the like repeal campus carry, make Texas a May issue state, do all these horrible things. Like they're filing all the rabid anti-gun, like socialist, whatever bills, right? And then you look at the Republicans who just barely got in by the skin of their teeth, and they're like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I have to be more moderate. I'm like, seriously, first of all, if this is your last year, if Texas is turning blue, wouldn't you want to make a stand? You would think, right? Great. Right now, if it's your last chance, make it worthwhile. And second, like, do you want anybody to show up and work on your campaign so you have a chance at it? Maybe instead of saying, hey, elect me again so I can do nothing again, you could actually say, hey, elect me again because I stood up for something. So I'm a little ticked off about that.
Right. And I think that they're really short-sighted about that. They assume that they're going to annoy moderates or something. But the thing is, if they got elected anyway, based on, you know, Second Amendment policies, or at least conservative, quote unquote, policies, and then they don't abide by that, I actually think they have a much bigger chance of getting booted from office than if they actually kept up and had been telling the truth during the elections and all of that. So I don't think politicians really think in the long term, and they don't understand that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just to pause a second, I do see some people in the chat who are like, I don't think they're monitoring the chat. We are monitoring the chat. We do see what you guys are saying, and thank you guys for your great comments. I guess, what did they say? You guys registered as FFL. Sorry, we're gonna take a little chat break.
Yeah.
But no, I am not. I don't have $15,000, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not a registered FF.
No.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gun purchases should be tax deductible. Change my mind. That's an interesting idea. I mean,
it's safety, right? It's like we're providing a safety to the public. We should.
Don't even get me started on. So I'll say this much, and then y'all should probably talk more on that. But like, why are we looking for little carve outs for little things? Right? Instead of get rid of all the property taxes. If you have a state income tax, get rid of that. Get rid of that. I so many things. Slash the government budget way down. I could talk a long time about that, but basically that. Like, quit. Don't do the little carve outs. Those are stupid.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like you were talking about before. The people who are really progressive are not going in baby steps anymore. I mean, they did for like a couple decades. They were like kind of slow creeping, but they're not. They're unapologetically trying to push their agenda now, 100%, as radical as they can go. So we can't play the battle of tinkering around the edges anymore.
No,
I agree with that.
because they're pushing, like, this is right, Overton window. This is like the social normal, like the acceptable political realm. They're talking like way over here, and we're like, well, maybe we can move a little over here. Like that moves the middle to this.
Yeah,
we have to be exactly. Bold. We have to be that bold, talking about our radical concepts, which really aren't like. Why is liberty radical?
Yeah, and we're not helping ourselves either, and that's what really upsets me is so much about the whole Chris McNutt thing and the speaker Bonin whole incident that happened, because it was really at the end like, okay, well, actually, first it was finally Bonin like showing his true colors to the rest of the public. I'm sure you guys being there saw that earlier anyways, but just on paper, just, you know.
Yes, on record.
You just, you know, no recourse at all, basically. Just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not a fan of gun owners. And basically, I think you guys are, there's a fine line between you and criminals, basically.
Yeah.
So much so the law enforcement
group, you want everybody, including criminals, to carry. I'm like, you didn't read the bill, because the law can make it harder for criminals to carry. This law does. Of course, we all know a law isn't going to keep criminals from carrying. So,
right.
Yeah. And but then you see like what happened. I mean, not even the gun aspect, but you know, the tax aspect, where I'm hearing Republican leadership, not even leadership of like in the House or whatever, but even like outside that I usually respect, saying, oh yeah, no, it's okay that we can have a sales tax because we got to replace, you know, we're going to decrease the property tax. We got to have something to replace it. Actually, we don't. We have one of the highest property taxes in America. Yes, Texas does. And so here we are. We have all of these types of, you know, I don't know what's happening to the party. Yes, there's definitely been rhinos in the past, but now it seems like they're just more blatant. Either more blatant or they're just running scared.
They're just getting away with it because they think that they can. I mean, okay, so the HB3 was like a school spending bill that we passed. I was listening to the seconding speeches, like the speeches they made right before they took the vote, of people, you know, going up and giving this is what's great about it, or this is what I don't like about it. Several prominent, completely very, I don't like to use the word liberal, but very leftist Democrats came up and gave speeches about this is everything we've wanted for decades. We're like giving all the funding that our schools need. We are so proud of this. I'm like, are you guys hearing that? Like, are you seriously hearing that? And then Jonathan Stickland was the only no vote. The only one.
Yeah, great. Yeah, really abiding by their promises. As always.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was trying to get at basically, is that even our side is going to eat our own in that, right? So the whole thing with that situation too was, the most upsetting thing was that we were the ones who were coming out calling each other fringe groups. And, you know, we're not, you know, basically like we're pretty strong on stuff, but we're not that bad. We're not like them, right? But while the Democrats are laughing at us, like we've always, no matter what part of the spectrum you're on, they think we're all radicals and that we're all fringe group, okay?
Who are they going to attract?
They're fine.
They're not going to get all the teachers who always vote Democrat to vote for them. They're not going to get all the people who hate guns to vote for them. They're not. They're going to take off their base. They're going to show us they're spineless and they want to stand for nothing and they want to do nothing. This has been the most do nothing legislature, except for all sorts of infringing mental health stuff and spending a ton more money than they should.
Oh God, the infringing mental health stuff is like, it gets me upset.
Oh yeah. Do you think that's going to come back, the red flag laws? Do you think they're going to try and push that again, at least, well, we have 2 more years, but still, you know, they see all the success of it here in Colorado, of it being passed. Do you think they're going to try and do that in Texas again?
Of course they are. We had several bills filed. I kind of knew from the beginning of session, what I predicted is we made such a fuss last summer about don't you dare do a red flag law, but they decided they couldn't straight up do a red flag. So they're doing like the back door, the long term. So I define red flag like pretty narrowly. I mean, I'd say it's a means of judicially, by court order, removing people's guns, either ordering they can't possess them or actually confiscating them, removing people's guns when there's not even probable cause, like no actual due process, convicting them of something. There's not even an accusation they did something. It's a thought crime. I think you're going to, on the basis of they're going to do this thing, so we're going to now say you can't have a gun.
Right.
That's how I define a red flag law. Right now, because we demonize the term red flag so much, now everybody's throwing the red flag label on anything that's bad. Anything that has to do with mental health, that's a red flag law. Anything that, spends too much government money, that's a red flag law. So I don't define, I wouldn't define a lot of those as red flag, but they're bad. I will absolutely agree they're just as bad as red flag. So it's things like setting up this whole infrastructure for mental health professionals in the schools that would diagnose children and put this on their file, on their dossier that stays with them all the way through school into adulthood of mental illnesses. That then when they reach adulthood and they want to purchase guns, we're definitely afraid that could be on their record of, oh, now you can't purchase a gun because you had this when you were 6. Somebody said you were shy and that could lead to school shooting. Therefore, you can't get a gun. Like, that's the thing, that the long-term gun control, the long-term red flag that we are definitely facing. And yeah, some of that's passing already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And Rachel, are you I don't know if I've ever talked to you about criminal justice reform, but are you in favor of criminal justice reform?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which we're both in favor of criminal justice reform, but I feel like it is part of that streak of liberty, right? That it makes sense for pro-gun people to also be pro criminal justice reform. Can you expand on that?
Like gun rights is criminal justice reform. It's okay, let's not slap a penalty on somebody who's not causing any harm to anybody else.
Right.
Like that's literally what we have now in gun laws. Oh, you can go to jail for carrying a firearm without a license. You can go to jail for, carrying your gun in this place where there was a sign that said you weren't supposed to.
Yeah, possession charges.
Right. Like they weren't brandishing, they weren't, threatening somebody, they weren't shooting up a school, like they weren't doing any harm to anybody. So it's to me that's straight up criminal justice reform there, and I care about it in that and other issues as well.
Amen. Sure. Amen. And what I always hear about what they did with the knife rights in New York, and using criminal justice reform really to even get Democrats on board to realize, if this is affecting criminal justice reform, or the criminal justice system is affecting mostly Black and brown bodies, right, or people, then the reason why that they're going into prison, right? For a lot of them, it has to do with possession charges.
Yeah, nonviolent stuff.
Knife rights, that's really great because I have knife rights. Like, this is literally from the organization Knife Rights. It says I don't know if you can read it. All knives matter.
Love it.
Front in defense of the Second Amendment. So yes, I appreciate the organization Knife Rights. They've done good work in making it a bipartisan criminal justice issue. Like, hey, people are getting pulled over for this and searched, and this should not be having a knife on you should not be probable cause for searching you.
Yeah, it's a tool, especially with a knife. Like, I don't know, that's ridiculous.
And it should be the same for the gun. Like, gun on you should not be probable cause of, I get to search them now. Just stop that.
Exercising one of your constitutional rights should never be probable cause for a search.
Right? Right. Or you had a microphone. I think you were going to say some things.
Yeah. We're laughing, but yeah, exactly. That's how absurd it is.
Right.
And we got a question in a chat that I think will lead into something that you said you wanted to talk about. So someone asked, how can we get a constitutional carry in New York? And then someone pretty much responded that that's not going to happen. But I think it's a good question about kind of what the actual lobbying kind of process is, or what we can actually do at a state level in terms of talking to our legislatures to try to get constitutional carry passed in states that don't have it yet.
Yeah. So, 30 years ago, maybe even recently, this was really crap. And I I hesitate to like make the divide Republican Democrat, because there are some Democrats in a lot of states who will vote for gun rights, and there are of course a lot of Republicans who won't. But in general, I'm saying that because of their platforms, their stated stance on it, right? Not that everybody closely aligned. So that's why. So and we've come this far, you know, in that 30 years, well, a little over 20 years, we've passed a shall issue license, which is really like this much of what we need, but like we've moved toward it, and we've opened the door for constitutional carry the conversation. You know, we were very close to it until they just turned their backs on us this year. But how to do it? You got to start. You have to have the face-to-face conversations with your legislators. If your own legislator is not being attentive, you've got to go start building relationships with others. So just as an individual grassroots person, if your legislature is in session, look up and see what bills are moving. Are there good bills or are there bad bills? What's your legislature's process for citizens showing up and testifying in committee hearings? That is the best way to jumpstart everything. In Texas, anybody can show up, register, and speak. You might have to wait around for 15 hours till they get to you. And you never know when your bill's going to come. That's why we're there for so long, because if 40 people show up to talk on a bill, they listen to 40 people. You might get 2 or 3 minutes each, but they listen to everybody on each bill. And some days they have 30 or 40 bills on the agenda. So if you have that many people for each bill, you know, you're there all night. But the great thing is they will stay and listen to you. So in Texas, we have that. Some states also have that. Learn what that process is. And the reason I stress committee hearings is most bills die in committees.
Yeah.
So if you want to kill a bill, you got to go talk to the committee and just get them to shut it down. If you want to pass a bill, you have to make the committee pass it through. It's not enough to get pledges from all the legislators that they are going to pass it on the floor. You've got to be talking to the committee, which is actually much more efficient, right? Talking to 9 people instead of however many people, you know, 150 in Texas, 181. So that's where I would start. Figure out that process. If you're in legislative session, track those bills. If you have an online tracker, learn how to use it, watch the hearings. If it's all like Latin and Greek and gibberish to you, listen to it, and you'll start picking out, oh, I recognize that now. Oh, she always says that. Oh, this person always asks these really cool questions. I need to go have an appointment with them. Yeah. Don't be afraid to call up your legislator's Capitol office and say, can I please come have a meeting with the legislator? If they say no, okay, cool. Can I have a meeting with the chief of staff? No. Okay, can I have a meeting with a legislative director? No, just walk in and ask for it. I mean,
can I meet with an intern?
To the interns before, and I'm like, well, I will just, you know, indoctrinate the intern with
exactly.
So that's where I would start, is having those conversations.
Absolutely. And so, and part of it too is that we also had, you know, our empowered girls watching today, because they're watching a role model like you, someone, you know, that they can look up to and see in regards to one day going and lobbying their, you know, state legislators, or doing a lobby day in general. What advice do you have for a young woman who, you know, is passionate about this, or even just getting started, but they just know they want to do something? What advice would you give to a young woman who wants to start doing what you're doing, essentially?
I would say you have special power. And I personally, like, we've talked about this, like, I don't really believe in identity politics, like, oh, we have more rights because we're women. No. Yeah. But we do have more power. We're looked upon as almost a more credible witness of this, because we don't fit their stereotype of, oh, the redneck old white guy, right, who comes in, oh, they're expected to do that. And a lot of times I'll walk into a room and people expect that I'm the anti-gun people, and they'll be like, oh, before they knew me, they'd be like, oh, you know, good for you for being here. I'm like, thanks.
Mom's.
And then I go to the mic and
yeah.
Like, oh my gosh,
welcome.
So I find, even if I'm saying the same words that the old white guy next to me is saying, I have a special power. I'm looked on differently because I don't fit the stereotype. So don't be afraid. Like, you have special ability to communicate. Tell your story. You don't have to know all of the facts. Obviously, you know, be factually accurate, but you don't have to be the world's best expert on the issue in order to have an opinion and express it coherently and rationally. So, you know, get started. You're going to mess up. I mess up every day, but you try not to make big mistakes, right? It's like, oh, I could have done that better. You learn and you go on and you do it better. Every year I've gotten better, but if I hadn't started because I wasn't great the first year, I'd still be right there.
Awesome. Love it.
Right.
You have more questions?
Yeah, well, our chat is the most active it's ever been. So I'm so sorry that I haven't been actively reading these as much as I should. Someone did say that they loved all of our stories about how we got into guns and stuff. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see. People talking about. People are basically agreeing. Nicholas Daly says, stop making up nonviolent crimes, sending those nonviolent offenders to violent prisons, and increasing violent offenders. And I think that
our tax dollars are paying for that.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's the other thing. Housing prisoners is not cheap. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars a year per prisoner. Per prisoner. It's more. It's more than you would make, like, if you worked minimum wage 40 hours a week, you would still make less money than they spend on most prisoners just as each individual every year.
So. I mean, that healthcare is expensive.
Yeah, that healthcare for all. It's so
probably gonna be free. What happened?
I know, it's crazy.
Somebody else is gonna pay for it.
Yeah. Interesting. People are chatting with each other in the chat. That's cool. I like that, guys. That's awesome.
Be civil, but it's good.
But someone is asking, what do you think about concealed carry reciprocity?
Oh.
HR 38. I'm not sure if that's something happening in Texas or if that's a bill.
Yeah. So GOA has been working, Gun Owners of America, GOA has been working for quite a while on concealed carry reciprocity nationally. Okay. Which cool. I want to stress here, I am very, very focused on Texas to the point that I don't have all the details nationally of what we're doing, but I can give you the big picture. And GOA has actually been instrumental in making sure that constitutional carry states would be included in that. So basically, national reciprocity would mean if you have a license in any state, all the other states have to recognize it. And adding constitutional carry would mean if your state's constitutional carry, then essentially I think the way it works is like a driver's license or other state ID card from your state, which says, oh, I live in the state where I don't have to have a license, therefore I can carry without a license in other states. So the GOA has been instrumental in that. And it's been blocked for a long time. And now we've got a, Pelosi House, which they don't really like it. They don't really like our guns. I just think they're missing out. I was telling somebody the other day, if feminists were really consistent, they would all be telling everybody to carry a gun, like all the women,
especially like single women in cities.
Yeah. Now they might outlaw men from carrying guns or something stupid, but they would say all the women.
Yeah, they probably would actually. Because we have to be careful of. This is that next step.
Only women can own guns.
Only women can own guns.
That's the next step.
Like it's so stupid. They're like, we're gonna be empowered and feminist and strong, but we can't carry a gun. I'm like, you guys are crazy. If you want to be strong and empowered, like go carry a gun.
Right. Yeah. And I think also part of my story is the same thing of I think like you when you were saying that basically it was after you started shooting that you kind of felt that like being empowered, getting that power back. I think like in my life I had a lot of that.
It wasn't at all like, oh, I get to dominate everybody and be in charge. It wasn't at all that. It was like, oh, I'm actually able to take care of myself.
Yes. And that's a great feeling. That's
to
have the aspect of the feeling of being able to take your own life, literally your own life in your own hands. I know a lot of people like to say that, oh, take your life by your own hands type of things, attributed to career and stuff. But this is your actual physical life that you actually are able to protect.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is.
And for me personally, one of the things I like is being able to walk around at night downtown and just not be scared.
The best feeling.
If someone's leering at you from an alley, it's like, well, I mean, he can try to approach me, but we'll see how well that goes.
Yeah. The other thing on that is I hear a lot of old white guys, not to stereotype anybody, a lot of people saying, I've never open carry. Nobody should ever fear you're a target, whatever. Okay, my experience open carrying, first of all, my desire is not to, have this secret weapon that when I get attacked, I pull out. My desire is avoid the attack. Yeah. Don't put myself in the situation. And I have found so many times walking downtown, people start kind of leering at you and they see you have a gun. They physically back up. They're like, I'm not going to mess with her.
Yeah.
That's my experience. And that's why I do like to open carry sometimes.
Yeah. It's not worth the risk for them.
Exactly.
It's like, I mean, this sounds messed up, but it's kind of like a lion looking at a whole bunch of gazelles, right? They're going to go for the one that they think is the most vulnerable, that they think is not going to fight back. They're not going to attack the gazelle that is all, oh yeah, come at me.
Exactly.
So
exactly. That's Rachel. Yeah,
exactly. Someone says, I love the work GOA is doing. Yeah, me too.
Thank you. I do too. It is so awesome to get to be employed by somebody who wants me to do the things that I want to do. But I just can't. I'm so blessed to be able, like, they value the grassroots work. They value the, showing up and fighting and doing the hard things. I am so blessed to be able to work with GOA. They're awesome.
Yeah. And so this is all real talk, right? And the fact is, do you feel that there's ever a time where you do feel like, being in this world that currently is male dominated, right? I know already people are like, oh, here she goes. Sounds like a leftist about to talk about. But I mean, that's just the reality of it. It is. And I've experienced it several times. Can't tell you how many times at the range or, in other, in speaking or whatever. Have you experienced that, Rachel? And how do you handle it? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an absolute fact that a lot of the events I do, the world I live in, I may be the only female or one of the few females. I am really blessed again to have been in really great circles. It's very, very rare that I'm ever demeaned or talked down to. Mm-hmm. I was surrounded by men who honored me and valued me and accepted me and taught me and respected me as a person very much. Again, like, I feel like it gives me a special power and edge when I'm lobbying, when I'm talking about it. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Tell your story, step out. One of the reasons I feel, though, that it has been more male dominated, like shooting sports, etc. This is a gross generalization and I hate stereotypes. I do. But in general, what I've noticed, a lot of guys shoot, like they love to go to the range and shoot because it's fun. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them that I've known try to sell it to their wives, girlfriends, sisters, mothers, whoever, as, oh, it's going to be so much fun. Come to the range. It's like, just go here, like, shoot all the big guns. It's going to be amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
How many women do you know who are really looking for that hobby that's going to take a lot of time, all their weekend, it's going to get them dirty and break their fingernails and mess up their hair? Like, how many women are looking for this new hobby? That is not the way to sell them on it. Now, if they're after that, they're going to go find it themselves. Yeah. But I think more women are taking it up because they realize it's not just this fun hobby where you go blow things up on the weekends. It's my life.
Yeah.
And if it's presented that way, that's why I got started. It wasn't because shooting was fun. It wasn't a hobby. I was terrified of the gun, but I wanted to save my own life. And I think that's why a lot of other people who don't care about it as a hobby, they are embracing it. And that's the best way to outreach to them. Give them the real reason, not the fake reason. I mean,
right there.
Nothing wrong with doing events for fun, but the reason we care is to save our lives.
That is exactly. And I can't tell you how many rooms I've been in where the big guys still don't understand that.
Oh my gosh.
That it's about something together. I know, right? It's like, okay, just don't listen to us. I mean, we're not for women, we know.
Right.
Like what the reason why they even I think the National Shooting Sports Foundation also actually did a study on that, found out that over 70% of the of women who did that study said that the only reason why they even have a firearm is because of self-defense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Sell that. So, hey, here's a way to defend your own life, maybe your kids' lives, other people you care about. It's going to suck. It's going to be noisy. It's going to hurt. It's going to change your fashion and what you can wear. Yeah. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to sweat. But you know what? It might save your life.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I just want to, there's someone in the live chat who said that women are too hysterical to own guns. I'd like to point out that you're probably only talking about those crazy, insane feminists who don't want to have a gun anyway. So those of us women who understand our own self-defense and our own liberties, you can trust us with a gun. And even if you don't, I'm going to carry it anyway. So, and I don't know, Rachel, if you have thoughts on that too, but I just I wanted to.
Well stated. Well stated. Women are too hysterical to carry guns. They're either saying we're not women or we're too hysterical to carry guns, and that's just a lie. So move on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. So Frank Edwards is asking if we use polymer 80 handguns or rifles. Also, what are your thoughts on ghost guns? I'm not really sure what a ghost gun is.
Okay, so he's talking about the 80%. Like an 80% receiver where you can purchase it and doesn't have to have a serial number on it, and you can drill it yourself. Okay. That's great. We should be able to do that. There were some bills filed in Texas that would remove that ability, and thankfully they didn't come up for a hearing, but I would have fought them tooth and nail if they had. We have the right to carry. We have the right to own. We should be able to manufacture, and government should quit trying to regulate and control things that it can't really honestly do anyway. It's all about their control. It's stupid. So yes, go for it. Right.
Nicholas Daly says, a woman with a gun is less hysterical, period. Yes. Thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate that. Let's see.
Maybe one more.
Yeah. This person's talking about how a good starter gun for a woman would be a 22 of some kind. And that's actually a good question. If for a woman who is looking into buying her first gun, how should she approach choosing? And what are some considerations to go into that?
That is a much better question than what should a woman's first gun be? It's like saying, okay, what pair of shoes should a woman buy?
Yeah, right? Exactly. I know. You have to think,
is that really a question that you dare ask or answer? So I would approach it kind of the same way as shoes. Okay, get a reliable brand. Make sure it fits you. Make sure it's something you're actually going to wear and not just going to sit in your closet because you don't want it on you ever. Invest in something that's quality, and then there are a whole lot of great choices.
I like that answer.
And then what caliber stiletto you have? I mean, that's pretty basically it.
I carried a 380. Currently I carry a 9. I've made the choice to move to a 9. I like it. There's no reason not to. I was dissed sometimes for carrying a 380, and my answer was always, okay, so would you want to get shot with a 380?
It's like you never do it. You're like, oh, that bullet's not that huge. It's like you're shot with a bullet. Okay.
For women who carried a 32 or even a 22, I'm like, okay, sure, a bigger gun is larger caliber is probably better on a lot of levels. But if that gun you're gonna do, sister, have something on you. Have whatever you're actually going to carry, not what's going to sit in the closet.
Absolutely. It's so important. And we've been in panels before, Rachel, I think, where they'll say like, oh, well, you need to, and they'll scoff at us. You can hear when you're like saying blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to use it every day, or you're, afraid of it or whatever, then it's not worthwhile for you if it's something you wear every day. Because I know when you said like you have to kind of change your style a little bit. Man, for so many years I was just like, no, I'm gonna change gun culture. Gun culture's not gonna change me. And here I am in pants. Okay, I'm in pants, and I'm a girl. I'm a dress girl, Calvin Klein girl with stilettos and I'll get back to it, but it is harder. I will say that. And I know it's going to change as more women like us get into the industry and we demand stuff like that, including concealed carry purses. I mean, come on, guys.
I know. I should just learn how to sew and make some so we can have some concealed carry purses that aren't hideous, because they're just so cute.
The rhinestones. I mean, why? Okay. So someone, fill that void. But I mean, it's just part of it. It's just like, as women, we know that, and also even more so as women, we know other women who are really apprehensive of joining the gun culture, but just even joining the aspect of concealed carry in general, because they feel so overwhelmed because they feel like it will change their life completely. When it doesn't.
It kind of does. It's a major decision. I think one of the reasons that it was easier for me to make the decision, and I made it super fast. Funny thing is, I got my license to carry before my brother did, and I started carrying before he did. It was literally that fast. It was mostly because his paperwork got lost, but I still did.
Details.
It wasn't his. It was DPS's fault. Anyway, I think part of the reason is nobody was forcing me to do it. my brother like challenged me to prove my points, but he never told me I had to go carry a gun or you know, made me feel less worthy or less of a person because I was, and he never scoffed at me for being afraid to. He didn't pick my gun out for me. He took me, he and his friend, they you know, they took me, they drove me to academy, and we looked around, we looked at several places and looked at guns, but at the end of the day, they kind of like walked away where they were like, you know, we'll give you advice, but you have to pick your own gun.
Yeah.
And that was instrumental. So it's like giving people, women, men, whoever, give them the freedom to make that choice. It is a huge life change. It's a mental change more than anything, and they've got to make it for themselves. So that's important.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right.
And one thing I was just going to mention for any ladies who might be watching, well, I did, because I was pretty overwhelmed, especially even if you're just saying, well, I just want to get a handgun. It's like, even if you just limit it to that, there's still so many different variations within that. So I actually went to gun ranges and would shoot their like sample guns that were there, or the ones that you could just rent. And so it gave me an opportunity to feel the kickback on my wrist, which is kind of a big deal. You want to make sure you have a caliber of weapon that when you kick back, you actually can still aim accurately. So, and also it's like you were talking about with like a shoe, like you want it to fit in your hand. So I think it's important before you, you know, spend the hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands of dollars on a gun, to go and try and shoot it or shoot something similar to it if you can.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys
agree. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. And a lot of ranges have ladies' nights too. And that's changing too, where you can, they incentivize you to go over there and try multiple different types of firearms and calibers. So you can figure out which one's best for you and your custom fit, basically. Maybe not custom fit yet. I mean, can we get, is there like a point where we could like go online and start doing that? I mean, does that exist where we could like, I want this and this measurement this way and that way, and then okay, I got my gun.
Somebody should start the app.
Rachel, we got it. TM. Trademark again now. Yeah, that's how it works, right? Like the copyright. Right. So yeah, once we can go to like, you know, gets to the point where we can go to some like place like Men's Warehouse and like get a custom. Right. Yes. Okay, I think we're onto something there.
There are actually some gun shops though that make custom, or they'll actually
you can build
the gun in-house, and I bet they could make them
Yeah, you're right. So I guess
it would just cost you a lot, like more than I probably would spend. Let's see. Ooh, people. Yeah. Whoa, people are chatting it up.
Yeah, it's like the same group of
people. I know. But I appreciate that they're talking.
Well, so while we're waiting, Rachel, can you tell us more about how people can follow you and the work that you're doing, or even Gun Owners of America in general, but even more specifically you?
Sure. So the best way to just follow GOA is to sign up for their alerts. You'll get their national alerts as well as state-specific alerts. And you can do that at their website, gunowners.org/alerts. And so it's free. Sign up for those alerts. To follow me, honestly, the best way to stay really up to date is going to be Facebook. I know there are a lot of people who use it, a lot of people who don't. It's the platform where it's easiest for me to put out information. That's where I think the bulk of my people are. So that's the quickest way. I also do have a text alert system. If anybody wants to join, you can just send a text to 55222. The number is 55222. And the message you send is TX. Uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter. TX, and send it to 55222. You get my text alerts. A lot of it, they're very specific to, you know, this hearing is happening today, or I need people showing up for this or making this phone call. It's very specific to Texas legislation. But yeah, those are the ways. Feel free to follow me on social media too. That's what it's for.
It works, y'all.
It works. Awesome.
It works. So it does.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I know you have a wealth of information. There's actually also one thing that I wanted to talk about because, you know, we're women. We got to talk about it, our love lives a little bit. So I've heard that you have a special guy in your life.
I do.
About that?
I completely unsuspectingly found the love of my life last fall. Totally not planning on that. And it was the best thing that has happened to me. So yes, his name is Aaron. I think he's watching. which is awesome. So
Hey,
You treat our girl right, okay? I mean,
oh my gosh, he does.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
Yeah. Going into ledge session, I was kind of worried because like I've been through 3 previous legislative sessions being involved as an activist. And this is going to be my first one to be a full-time lobbyist, and I know how intense it is. I mean, I'm there at the Capitol, long hours. I have no flexibility in my schedule, hardly. Like, you never know what's going to come up. And I was a little worried, like seriously, a new relationship and ledge session, like everything else that's going on. And looking back, that was a godsend because I probably would have died and stressed out. Yes, it's harder. It's harder in the sense because you have to make time for the people that you love, and it's a conscious effort. And I'm not saying it's it's bad. But you have to be conscious about it. But at the same time, it makes everything else in my life so much easier. Like, it just more than makes up for it. And I am so blessed and so overwhelmed to have somebody who's a gun guy, loves God, loves me, like takes care of me in every way, every day. I am so blessed.
You guys seem super cute and love seeing you guys in your pictures. So I'm glad. And as a friend, I'm glad that you found someone who's good to you. So
Me too.
Good to see that, because we all have lives, people. People are just like, not just in the Texas, Capitol halls every day, like trying to push gun rights. This is great, but we gotta have more gun right leaning people in the future, and you don't do that by not finding someone. Okay, so you
gotta make some little gun lovers.
Yeah, exactly. Amen. Well, on that note, we will end. Thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you. Well, that is the end of our conversation tonight. Thanks for joining Trigger Warning with Antonia Okafor.
And Nina Prevot, it's great to see you guys tonight.
Yes, and we will talk to you guys later. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.